Alrighty, welcome on back, everybody, to the All Aussie Rules Footy podcast. Um, this is episode 29, and this is the round 12 review. Round 12 was just completed. The Essendon Gold Coast game finished roughly 45 minutes ago, so we're going to quickly record this episode. It will be going live on Monday as per usual. Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, let me know how your team went on the weekend. As always, I also have social medias. We've got Twitter, we've got Instagram, we've got TikTok, and we have Facebook, so check me out over on each of those. Also, this week, don't forget we've got a couple bonus episodes going up on the YouTube. On Tuesday, there'll be the Fremantle mid-season review, hot off their almost 100-point win over the Demons. And then on Friday, there'll be a bonus episode of the Port Adelaide mid-season review, as they are the two teams that have the bye in round 13. And as always, the Thursday round 13 preview will be going live on Spotify and YouTube on Thursday morning. So without any further ado, let's just jump straight into it. Latest news, multiple suspensions coming from the week. Both the top two picks for the Rising Star Award have been suspended and will not be winning the Rising Star. That's Sam Darcy and Harley Reid. Both got 2-week suspensions, I believe. It's rough. It's weird, in my opinion, that if you get rubbed out, you can't win the Rising Star. That's, I don't know. I mean, that's an AFL decision, but I don't know the reasoning for that. I'm sure there is a reason, but it is what it is. So those two both miss out. Other than that, I don't know if there's anything else too massive in the news. Obviously, the holding the ball rule was the big talking point of the weekend. I don't think it worked too badly. I mean, unfortunately, it's always going to be a bit impossible to adjudicate as the current rules stand, because there's still a lot of personal view on it all. So the umpires all see things differently, so they're going to all pay it differently. What we kind of want is as much consistency as we possibly can get. Moving on, we'll jump straight into the games from the weekend. First up was Thursday night football. As always, these infographics are from before the game. My post-game stuff doesn't go onto the videos, but we'll chat through it. Port Adelaide hosting Carlton on Thursday night. It feels like freaking a week ago now that this game happened. But yeah, Carlton got the win, 107. They kicked 16-11, 107 to Port Adelaide's 10-11, 71. Both teams were, I mean, it was a very close game for the first three quarters, and then Carlton kind of just put the boots to the floor and scored almost half their points in that last quarter. They kicked 8-1, 49 in the fourth quarter, when they were only on 58 to three-quarter time. They were 7 points up at three-quarter time and ended up winning quite comfortably by 36. Just a dominant last quarter. They were probably the better team most of the night, but at three-quarter time you could definitely see it going either way. But Carlton just, as I said, turned it on and got it done. Led mainly by Paddy Cripps, and in the first 5 or 6 minutes of that final quarter was massive. Looking at the stats of the game, disposals not too dissimilar. Both teams had around about that 330 mark. Contested was slightly ahead for Carlton, but not by much. Same with uncontested. Turnovers and intercept game was dead level on 57, which isn't a high number, so both teams kind of looked after the ball quite well. 13 out of 16 Carlton goals were assisted, so that's a pretty high number, pretty high percentage at least. What else is big that stands out? Centre clearances were level, which I don't think is too big of a deal in this game. Both Actually, well, it probably favours Carlton because that Port Adelaide are probably typically the better clearance team. So the fact that Carlton broke level there was probably a big factor, especially in that last quarter. They got a couple big centre breaks that led straight to quick goals. Stoppage clearances, Carlton also were +2 in that. Tackles, Carlton were +15. Inside 50s, Carlton were +15. So overall, Carlton probably looked like they dominated a fair bit of the game in many ways. And in the end, the final score kind of read that way. Best players, as I said, for Carlton, Paddy Cripps was outstanding. He was huge, especially in that last quarter. He ended up with 22 touches, a couple goals, and a very good performance. Harry Mackay kicked 3, as did Zach Williams playing forward. He's been forward the last 2 weeks and been quite good up there, actually, both weeks since returning from injury. Blake Acres was very good, I thought. Sam Walsh, solid again. Nick Newman, good. Adam Sard was good in the back line. So, plenty of positives on the Carlton side of the fence. They had a lot of players perform really well. I don't think they had any big name players that didn't perform on the weekend. Charlie Curnow kicked 3 goals from very limited opportunities. He only had 9 touches, but kicked 3 goals, so he did his part as well. On the Port Adelaide side of things, Georgiadis kicked 4 goals. He was their only multiple goal scorer for Port Adelaide. Zach Butters was good. He had 24 touches. He was very solid. Ivan Saldo in the ruck, he played really well. Horn Francis was massive. Alir was probably the best defender on the field. He, in terms of controlling the ball, he did get 13 intercepts, which is a very high number. Led the ground, which 13 in a game which there was only 57 apiece is pretty high. Usually, if someone's getting 13 plus, you're looking at a game where there's 70 plus turnovers. So yeah, nothing too outstanding from anyone on the Port Adelaide side of the fence. Everyone kind of did their job. Finlayson was the starting sub, and he came on for Charlie Dixon, who had a very quiet game. He did nothing basically for the 68 minutes he was on, and then Finlayson came on, did better. He kicked a goal, but overall, the Port Adelaide forward line probably wasn't operating as well as perhaps they would hope. They'll obviously be looking forward to some players coming back. Not missing many, but just obviously a couple of important ones. So that was Thursday night footy. Carlton better team on the night, especially in that last quarter. Really put the foot down and took the game away from Port Adelaide. I know what I'm talking about. Game 2 on the weekend was Friday night footy at Marvel Stadium. Collingwood and Bulldogs. Bulldogs win this one. I won't say convincingly because most of the game it was pretty close. But Bulldogs won at 15-10, 100 to Collingwood 12-10, 82. And for the second week in a row, Collingwood have fallen over after leading in the last quarter. This week, the Bulldogs kicked 5-1-31 to 0-1-1 in the last quarter and just overran Collingwood, who are missing a lot of players at the moment, so they do have excuses, but still, if you're leading it into the last quarter, you kind of want to put it away, and they haven't been able to do that over the last few weeks. Having a look at some of the stats, the Bulldogs kind of dominated possession, plus 43. They were a lot more effective with their disposals too. Collingwood were at a very, very low effective disposal rate this week, which has been the case for the last few weeks. It's a weird stat though for them because week in, week out they have a very low disposal efficiency, but then they also have a very low turnover game. So it's hard to pinpoint what that means. But at the moment they're not really dominating teams, so it's not really working in their favour. Contested ball, Collingwood won. Uncontested ball was dominated by the Doggies. Turnover game was dominated by Collingwood. They only had 56 turnovers to the Bulldogs 66, which, as I said, Collingwood tend to have a low number in turnover count. That's kind of how they have played football this year. They don't really do well out of clearances, and then they just focus on getting the turnover and bouncing it the other way. Other important factors from the game, as I was just kind of pointing out, Collingwood don't really do that great in clearances. They lost centre clearances by 1, but they lost stoppage clearances by 16, which is a massive margin. Tackle count, Collingwood won that by 24, which is a massive number. Kind of shows how they were playing their game. I guess with a lot of outs, they were trying to keep that pressure up as their way of stopping scoring and trying to create opportunities. Inside 50 count was plus 23 for the Dogs, so that's another sign that they definitely had more chances. I think after quarter time, Collingwood dominated the first quarter and just wasted opportunities. They kicked 5-7 in the first quarter. After that point on, Bulldogs dominated the ground position and possession and inside 50s and all of those stats. So Collingwood kind of held on, but in the end, that last quarter, they just couldn't do it anymore, and the Doggies overran them. Looking at best players, we'll look at the Doggies first. Clearly best on ground, I think, was Bontempelli. He was huge. He had 38 disposals, 16 contested, couple goals. Just an outstanding performance from him all around the ground. He was huge. Clearly the best player. Tim English was good in the ruck. Treloar was solid. He had 37 touches and a goal, so he was good. They all played their role. Sam Darcy kicked a couple important goals. I think Lachlan McNeil showed a bit, which is a positive sign for them. Jack McRae was okay. Harvey Gallagher was good. Riley Sanders getting a full game this week was good. He showed up. On the Collingwood side of things, I think it's obvious that Nick Dacos was their best player. He had 32 touches, kicked a couple goals. He broke a couple Collingwood records. He had, I think, the most ever clearances for a Collingwood player, which was 16 in a match. And he also had the most amount of contested possessions in a game for a Collingwood player, which was 27. He just doesn't get an easy touch at the moment. They are on him all the time. And he still finds the ball a lot. Other than that, Jack Crisp was good. He had 24 touches, 1 goal. He could have had multiple goals in that first quarter, and that might have been a bit of a positive if he had have converted a couple of those others, because that would have been huge for them. Darcy Cameron was solid in the ruck. Maynard had a fair bit of it off the back line and played pretty well. Darcy Moore was good in the back line. Beau Macquarie's pressure and tackling was outstanding. But in the end, a lot of young players and a lot of players that maybe aren't ready for AFL / just aren't good enough. But we'll see. There was a few players that just on the Collingwood side of things that just weren't up to scratch in my opinion. But that's football. So that was Friday night football game. We then move on to Saturday, which was the first one, at least on Saturday, was Hawthorn hosting Adelaide, and this did not go as I expected. Well, I knew it was going to be a good game. Hawthorn have been playing good football, but they should have won this by 100 points. They ended up winning it 16-11-107 to 12-8-80. At halftime, it was 47-18. And the second half was pretty much level, but most stats, Hawthorn absolutely dominated this game, pretty much in every facet. There's very little positives for Adelaide. Possibly the low point of Adelaide's season, and probably the high point of Hawthorn's season so far. They were really good. Adelaide did actually have more disposals than Hawthorn in this match, but I wouldn't read too much into that. Hawthorn won contested, Adelaide won uncontested. Turnover game was 68 Hawthorn, 70 Adelaide, so pretty similar. But in the end, Hawthorn just made their chances and converted them. Centre clearances was 18 to 10 in Hawthorn's favour, so that's a pretty big smashing in the centre clearances, and even stoppage clearances was 21 to 19, so plus 10 total in clearances, which when you look at these two teams, neither of them are very good at clearance game, but Hawthorn absolutely dominated this. I think I did point out last week that was probably going to be a interesting point of this game, was going to be the clearance game, because neither team really excel at it, and Hawthorn passed with flying colours in that regard. Another thing that I pointed out was the tackle game. Adelaide typically a decent team, they're still in the bottom half, but positive overall at 3.73 tackles a game, plus 3.73, whereas Hawthorn are minus 10 and the worst going into this game. And Hawthorn, well, they did lose it. They didn't lose it by much. They only lost it by 4, so that's probably a win for them in that regard. Inside 50s plus 22 is huge for Hawthorn. And overall, just a domination, really. Never at any point of this game did they look like they were going to lose. I don't know what's going on with Adelaide's season, but I think you can basically put a pin in them now. They did not show enough here to suggest that they're going to be able to win majority of their games going home to make finals, which they would need to do. Looking at best players, starting with the Hawthorn team as they were the winners. Dylan Moore was fantastic. He kicked 5 goals. He's had a incredible season. I think he's probably the number one small forward, or small to mid forward in the game at the moment. Based on what we've seen over the last 6 or 7 weeks, he's been outstanding. Will Day was really good. He had 23 touches. Who else was important? 3 goals to Gunston in his 250th was good. I don't think he was outstanding throughout the game, but he got 3 goals, so that was a good effort from him. Ginnivan was solid. He had 22 touches, a couple goals. Newcomb, he's showing great signs in the midfield. I think he's going to be a very important player for them going forward. His pressure and everything is looking really positive. Walpole was good. Ned Reeves was good. Just a solid outing from most of the Hawthorn team. They did what they needed to do and they got the win. Adelaide, I think the main thing here is Jordan Dawson was way down on his typical performance. He only managed 15 touches and rated very, very low. Their best players, Saligo continued his fine season. He's probably been their most consistent midfielder this year. He's been really good week in, week out. Matt Crouch had 35 touches. He was good without being outstanding. Rory Laird was good. Borley was good. Shell was good. Riley O'Brien dominated in the ruck, to be honest, but couldn't convert that into success for the team, I guess. He did have 15 hit-outs to advantage, which was, if not the highest, very close to the highest number for the round. He was very good. As he usually is, his ruck work is outstanding. So where to from there for both teams? Hawthorn are showing some positive signs. I don't know if they're quite ready to take the next step and push for finals just yet, but you never know. They're certainly showing some positive signs over the last 4 or 5 weeks. Adelaide, I think that's probably their season done. They might prove me wrong and come out and win the next 6 or 7, but I highly doubt it right now. I had a bit of faith in them at the start of the year, probably too much in the end, but I don't know what to make of them really at the moment. It's interesting what has happened to Adelaide this season. Next up, we went over to the West, to Optus Stadium. West Coast hosted St Kilda. I don't know what to make of this one either. West Coast jumped them in the first quarter. They were up 9 points at quarter time, but after that, St Kilda kind of controlled the game. St Kilda won at 12-10-82 to West Coast 10-8-68. So not a massive win, but 14 points. In the end, that's all you need to do. West Coast do play off the stadium better than they play most other grounds. So it was never going to be an easy challenge for St Kilda, but they got it done and were quite reasonably impressive in doing it. I don't think West Coast really showed their best, but you can only beat the opposition on the day, and that's what St Kilda did here, and they really needed it because their last 5 or 6 weeks has not been great. Overall disposals, St Kilda were plus 20 in that. Contested just slightly St Kilda's way. Uncontested also St Kilda's way. Turnover game was very even, 64 for West Coast, 65 St Kilda. If we scroll down and have a look at clearances, centre clearances was won by West Coast plus 3, but overall clearances was St Kilda plus 5. St Kilda probably going into this game are the better clearance team, and they kind of showed that just in this one. Tackle game dominated by St Kilda, which is a massive win for St Kilda. Both teams are pretty bad, like they ranked 16 and 17 going into this. So this, for St Kilda to win the tackle count and win it convincingly is probably pretty important, and maybe hopefully we'll show them what they should be doing week in, week out. If you bring the tackle pressure, it tends to, it's not going to fix all your problems, but it certainly can help, because opposition players make more mistakes when they're under pressure. It's just natural. So maybe something they can bring going forward. They also won the inside 50 count by 8, did St Kilda. So overall, they St Kilda probably were the better team, and they got the 14-point win. They did win both the third and fourth quarter after trailing by 14 at halftime. They turned that right around. They won the last quarter by 19, and the rest is history. Looking at best players for St Kilda first, Jack Steele was really good. He only had 17 touches, but I think they were very important. And his pressure was outstanding. He was the highest rated pressure player, I think, on the ground. He was really good. Hunter Clark was good. Rowan Marshall was solid in the ruck. Mason Wood, Jack Sinclair, Callum Wilkie, all great. All played really well. Goal kickers, I don't think they really had many multiple. They only had Mason Wood, who kicked 4, and they also had Max King, who kicked a couple. So some good all-round performances from St Kilda, really. On the West Coast side of things, multiple goal scorer Liam Ryan and also Jamie Cripps both kicked 3, and Jack Darling got 2. So that was 8 out of their 10 goals between those 3. Elliot Yeo was outstanding. Gibney was good. Jamie Cripps, as I said, kicked 3 goals. He was solid. McGovern was good in the back line. But overall, they were outclassed. Liam Ryan kicked 3. He played his best game of the season. I think they were just beaten overall in most facets of the game, even though they were leading at half time. They didn't really show that much in the second half, and ended up they were probably closer than it felt like they were at the end of the game. We go on to the Saturday night game. This was down at GMHBA in Geelong. Geelong hosting Richmond. Geelong obviously came into this with an 4-game losing streak. 4-game losing streak, and Richmond obviously were 1-10 coming into this. So things were not looking great for either team. And at halftime, it kind of looked like maybe Richmond had a chance. They were plus 16 at halftime. They'd kicked 7-7 to 5-3. Geelong just didn't look like they really showed up. But then in the second half, it kind of blew away, and in the end, Geelong won it comfortably, 15-9-99 to 10-9-69. Second half was 66 to 20 in Geelong's favour. So they ended up doing what you'd expect from Geelong, but their first half was a little bit of a worry and a concern for them. Overall, they won the disposal count by almost 70, contested possession by 23, uncontested by 50-ish. Turnover game was 68 Geelong, 71 Richmond, so Geelong won that just. Outside of that, interesting things, I guess. Centre clearances were won easily by Geelong, +6. Stoppage clearances were +1 to Geelong, which they're not great at, but it was the 17th best clearance team against the 18th best clearance team. So even though Geelong aren't great at it, you still expect them to beat Richmond at it, and they did. So that's all you can do. Tackle game, neither team are outstanding at tackling either, but Geelong ended up +4 with 66 tackles, which isn't too bad. Inside 50s was +23 to Geelong, so pretty much most games this weekend were just inside 50s were dominated by one team, and this is another one of them. So best players, Geelong, Tanner Bruin was good, Toby Conway was very solid, Max Holmes was good. I think Jack Bowes was probably the best player for them, probably best on ground. He was really good. He had 29 touches, did his job well. Tom Atkins, he's continued his fine form. His last 3 weeks have been outstanding. And Tom Stewart was good down back. Brad Close. Most of Geelong's side was solid without being outstanding. 3 goals to Oliver Dempsey, 2 to Tomahawk, and 2 to Shannon Neal. And then a lot of single goal kickers. And then on the Richmond side of things, Liam Baker was really good. I thought he had 31 touches and a goal. Showed a bit from him. Ralph Smith showed a bit of run. He was good. Nankervis was good in the ruck. Daniel Rioli was solid. Jack Graham was really good, I thought. His pressure was good. Goal kickers, Dustin Martin kicked 2. Samson Ryan also kicked 2. As did LeFou before he went subbed off injured with a knee injury. Overall, though, Richmond, they just don't have the class on the park at the moment. They've still got too many players out. So they'll be looking to get players back at some point and hope that they can kind of improve a little bit. But at the moment, they've just got too many people out injured, and that's making it hard for them to compete. But they showed a bit in the first half, which is all they could hope to do, really. So that was Saturday night football. We then had 2 games on Sunday. The first one up was Melbourne Fremantle, and I don't think anybody saw this game going the way that it did. Fourth on the ladder against 9th on the ladder, and 9th on the ladder almost won it by 100. With about 8 minutes to go or so, Fremantle did get the margin up to 100 points, but then Melbourne managed to kick the last goal of the game and end up getting back to 92 points. They lost by, overall, not a great performance from them. Fremantle won at 22 goals, 9-141 to Melbourne's 7-749. Melbourne kicked the first 2 goals, and then after that it was one-way traffic. Obviously, Fremantle kicked 22 out of the last 27 goals of the match and absolutely destroyed Melbourne. What we make of that going forward, I don't know, but let's have a look at some of the stats. It's going to be one-way traffic here. Disposals was +80 to Fremantle. Contested was +40 to Fremantle. Uncontested was +40 to Fremantle. Turnover game was dead even, 67 apiece. What else is... Marks was 46, +46 to Fremantle. Pressure acts, obviously it was won by Melbourne, but that's because Fremantle had so much of the ball. Centre clearances +12 to Fremantle, which is an absolute shellacking out of the middle. And then stoppage clearances was +13 to Fremantle, to end up being plus 25 in clearances, which is one of the biggest margins we've had this season. Not all that surprising because Fremantle are the number one clearance team in the game, whereas Melbourne, ranked 11th going into this week, they're going to probably drop down the order on this performance because plus or minus 25 for Melbourne is a absolute shellacking. Tackle game, both teams coming into this are pretty level, and it was pretty level. 52 for Melbourne, 53 to Fremantle. Inside 50 game though was dominated by Fremantle, which both teams have basically going into this game the exact same record with minus 0.82, but that's certainly changed here because Fremantle went inside 50 31 more times than Melbourne, which is an absolute smashing. Yeah, I don't know if there's much more to say about the stats other than the fact that it was just an absolute schmozzle for Melbourne. Looking at best players, you could pretty much say anybody on the Fremantle team. They all were very, very good. Sarong, outstanding again, 27 touches. He did his job. Sean Darcy in the ruck was really good for Freo. Jordan Clark was outstanding. He had 36 touches, 15 marks, 10 score involvements was really good. Nat Fyfe only had 20 touches, but he was very important with those touches. Brayshaw was good. Luke Jackson was good. Amiss was good. Pearce was good. Hayden Young, Tracy, Swiatkowski, everyone from Fremantle was overall pretty good. Multiple goal kickers. We had Jai Amiss kick 4, which was probably his best return in almost this season, certainly since the early couple rounds, I think. Luke Jackson kicked 3. Walters kicked 3. He probably played his best game of the year so far. Josh Tracy kicked 3. And then Michael Frederick kicked 2. Jumping over to the Demons. She was a sorry tale, but best players. Jack Viney was solid. He had 24 touches. A high pressure game as usual. Probably slightly lower than most games for him, but he was still solid. Max Gawn, as always, was good in the ruck. He had 23 touches and a goal. Petrarca was solid. He had 26 touches. Clayton Oliver was good without being outstanding. And yeah, most of the rest of the team was not great, to be honest. No, there was a multiple goal scorer. Tom McDonald kicked 2 for the Demons. Overall, really, really tough night for the Demons. Not night, it was middle of the day. I don't know what I'm talking about there, but they obviously have a massive game coming up this weekend against Melbourne. The King's birthday now. Clash against Collingwood on Monday, so they will be looking to quickly turn around their form because another performance like this would not be too great for them. We have one final game from the weekend, and this was Gold Coast versus Essendon up on the Gold Coast. So far, Gold Coast now have 7 wins. All 7 of those were home games. They have 5 losses, which were their 5 away games. Sorry, I got distracted. I knew what I was trying to say. My brain just wasn't quite ticking over. Pretty close game all the way through this one. In the end, Gold Coast won at 14-7-91 to Essendon's 11-14-80. Gold Coast, I don't know. Either team probably thinks they had a chance and probably deserved the win in a way. Essendon jumped them early, but then after about quarter time onwards, Gold Coast led the rest of the way. Twice in the last quarter, the scores were tied up when Essendon kicked goals. But in the end, Gold Coast just had enough just to hold them off. And they'll feel like they were the better team. And I mean, you can make arguments for both teams, I think, from this one. Overall, disposals were dead level. Gold Coast handballed it a little bit more than the Bombers, and the Bombers kicked it a little bit more, but they ended up with 387 touches each. Uncontested ball was won by Essendon. Turnover count was very high for both teams. 77 Gold Coast, 76 Essendon. So slightly in Essendon's favour, the turnover count, but only just. Pressure acts were very similar. Clearances, centre clearances were 1 plus 2 by Essendon. Stoppage clearances were level for both teams. So that's probably a win for Gold Coast because Essendon do slightly better than them typically in the clearance game, which is surprising because Gold Coast do have some very good clearance players, but they don't really turn it into full game domination. Tackle count was dominated by Essendon plus 17, which both teams are good at tackling. Essendon I probably would consider the better tackler of the two teams, but they showed that certainly here. Inside 50s was also won by Essendon plus 4, which isn't a huge number. Closest inside 50 battle of the round was this one. Once again, both teams are very similar. I said this going in my preview episode that the two teams aren't too dissimilar on the board, like the way they play the game, the way they move the ball, the way they clear the ball, the way they tackle. A lot of things are very similar between these two teams, and it was going to be interesting to see how that played out. And it played out with a close game. They didn't do it the same way, but it was a close game between them, and nonetheless. Looking at best players for both teams, Gold Coast were the winners, so we'll look at them first. First of all, Ben Long kicked 4 goals, Lukosius kicked 2, and Ben King kicked 4 goals. Were the multiple goal kickers. I said that in a weird order, but you got the idea. Best players, Matt Rowell was outstanding, had 26 touches, 41 pressure acts, which is outstanding. He tackled well, he played an outstanding game. I think he got quite a few clearances as well. Noah Anderson continued his fine season, he had 33 touches. Sam Collins had 11 intercepts, which is very high. Mac Andrew was good in the back line. Miller was good, he had the last goal of the game from a 50-metre penalty. Some will probably argue that it shouldn't have been a free kick or a 50, but I think technically it was dropping the ball, and the player didn't pass it back to him, passed it to the Gold Coast teammates, so technically a 50 as well, in my eyes at least. So yeah, Gold Coast really good across the board. The Bombers, Zach Merritt was outstanding again. He had 33 touches. He's had a very good season. He continued it today. Who else was good? I mean, there was a lot of good players. Ridley was solid, not as good as he was last week, obviously, but he was outstanding last week. Caldwell was good. Perkins was good. Nick Hind was solid on the wing. Dyson Heppel, Sam Durham, and Mason Redman were all good. Multiple goal kickers for Essendon was only one player. Nick Cox kicked 3. Where to from here for both teams? I think Essendon have Carlton next weekend, which will be game of the round, you'd think, on paper. That should be outstanding. Both teams in solid form. Both teams trying to be Victoria's number 1 team, and coming off a loss, Essendon will want to bounce back. Carlton obviously got a great win on Thursday night, so they'll be pushing to continue that. And I believe it's the Mackay brothers' first time going up against each other, which is crazy, seeing they've been in the league together for like 8 years now. So that's all the matches from the weekend. We'll have a look at how my tips went, but this is going to be sorry reading for me at least, because it was a rough weekend for me. I thought Port Adelaide might have shown a bit more on Thursday night, but they got blown away in that last quarter, so I got that one wrong. I did get the Bulldogs right over Collingwood, almost got the right margin as well. It was 18 points, so I was very close on that one. Hawthorn were way too good for Adelaide, which I did not predict. I thought it was going to be a close game. Didn't think Hawthorn would dominate as much as they did. St Kilda were too good for West Coast, so I got that one wrong as well. Geelong at least I got right. even if I was double the margin. The worst one of the weekend for me, and not just for me, a lot of people. I tipped Melbourne. They lost by 90 points, so that looks like a bad tip, but at least I won't be the only one that tipped Melbourne in that one. And then I got the Gold Coast one right at the end, slightly off on the margin, but only by 9 points, so not too bad. So we only got 3 this week. We've had a rough couple weeks, really. Hopefully we can turn it around coming up. I don't know. Footy's weird at the moment, and my tipping is going atrocious, which is all on me. But hopefully we bounce back soon. Yeah, as always, thanks for tuning in. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, all of those things. Every interaction helps me grow and get to more people, and yeah, that's what I enjoy doing. Don't forget that there will be mid-season reviews for Fremantle and Port Adelaide up on the channel, YouTube channel only, this week, Tuesday and Friday. Tuesday Fremantle, Friday Port Adelaide. We'll be back with episode 30 of the podcast on Thursday. That will be going live on YouTube and Spotify Thursday morning for the round 13 preview, which will have all of the King's birthday match weekend match previews. So come back for that. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll catch you on the next one.